And welcome to the Filmstein podcast for another abridged episode where we come hot out of the seats of watching a film, normally from the theater. Today I am joined by my scaredy cat friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm glad everybody could join us, because today we will be talking about David Sandberg's 2025 release, Until Dawn. And I must admit, this film was really surprising with all of its ideas. I really appreciate this reoccurring nightmare night. It's actually way more interesting than the game itself. But there's kind of a self-awareness wrapped up in that. A common thing you will do in games is optimize what you're doing, the run you're making, right? To use the least amount of resources, to do it in the quickest amount of time, to not be seen. I thought that was really fun and surprising to see that in an Until Dawn movie. And then also the clips that you can save from games with Abe recording what was happening to them. I thought that was pretty clever and fun. I was really surprised by how funny this movie was, by how disturbing it was. They definitely kind of live in the vein of Scream and Bodies. There seems to be this kind of vibe check nature to some of these films. But then they also throw in this life lesson, I guess, if you will, of not letting life pass you by and ultimately having better time management skills, which we could probably all be better at. There wasn't a lot of stickiness with that point other than Clover being like, yeah, I'm going to take my life into my own hands and not just let, things happen to me, I guess. We don't get a lot of conclusion in that point. But yeah, man, I was quite surprised by this movie. I thought it would be a train wreck, and it was actually quite fun. I'm very curious, how did you feel about Until Dawn?
We talk over and over about how important it is when you watch the movie. So everything I'm about to say is heightened. I don't go anywhere past 10 p.m. I'm at home, safe in my bed. So the last thing I should do, as the scaredy cat that I am, is go watch a horror movie. With that being said, this was the scariest movie I've seen in a while. And it's not long legs type of scary. That just messed with my head. Long legs, I'm never even watching again. I don't even want to mention it. But just the jump scares got me so bad. And the suspense, oh my god, that was insane. I don't play a lot of games, especially scary games. I'm not about to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'd probably give myself a heart attack playing scary games if I can't even handle scary movies. Games are just so much more immersive that I just know I wouldn't be able to handle it. I had a fun time watching this movie, but some of the jump scares did get me a little too much, especially the one towards the end. It was so unexpected. A lot of the other ones were pretty expected, but that one was so unexpected that I just felt my legs go numb. I probably covered my face 4 times throughout the movie. If you follow us, you know I hate faces and masks. And faces really up close to the screen, I can't watch. I can't look. They terrify me. So that scene where she's in the room full of masks, I was uneasy the entire time. I was really hoping none of those masks were going to move, even though they were obviously on mannequins. The score elevated everything you're watching. It was nonstop. There were creepy sounds everywhere, odd sounds, footsteps, doors closing. You knew someone was somewhere. We had quite a few people at the movie theater, so when there were scenes of someone whispering, I didn't know if that was the person behind me whispering or it was someone in the movie getting got and whispering. And that terrified me. because I didn't know if it was right behind me or if it was in the screen. And you didn't know what it was until the person went to go investigate what it was. So I can't even say I was on the edge of my seat because I was buried in my seat with my blanket. I was on edge walking to my car. I was on edge driving home. I mean, I was really surprised by how much this movie scared me. But I do agree with you. It was also surprisingly funny. I enjoyed a lot of the gore, a lot of the ways they died. It reminded me of these groundhog type of movies. It reminded me of Happy Death Day, which is one of my favorite horror films. Like, these people can't move on until they realize what they need to learn from life. And here it was, you can't live by sitting still. You have to go actively live your life. You've only got one life to live. Make the best of it. So I like that tie-in. I'm curious how you felt about the monsters and the creatures. They felt like zombies to me, but I wasn't sure what vibe we were supposed to be going with, because we also had these masked strangers that also reminded me of the film Strangers. Then we had this creepy old lady who I think was supposed to be a witch.
Yeah, they tried to sell us on these creatures, these bad guys being different representations of her problems, of Clover's problems.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess the zombie-like dudes were Wendigos. I'm not really familiar with the Wendigo, but they were very cool. They looked awesome.
I know we saw a drawing of a werewolf, so I thought somebody was going to turn into a werewolf at one point.
Yeah, I did too. That may have been a reference to the game, I'm not sure, but this movie definitely comes out of the gate, especially with the rain, wall thing, and the repetition of the nights. It feels very much like Cabin in the Woods, with these like experiments kind of happening and stuff. That's kind of a similar film where we don't really go anywhere with that idea. We just land on the climax, and it lets your imagination kind of run wild, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of have a similar thing happening here, but it morphs into Clover being a patient. And so I don't know about you, but I almost feel like she was going to wake up in a mental institution or something, which may have been a little extreme, especially with her diagnosis, as Dr. Hill was putting it. You know, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're grieving. You know, you don't have chronic illnesses. I do wish we got a little bit more of her grieving process. They kind of joke about it when they give it to us, a little too much. But I guess that is kind of that bodies vibe, humor thing coming through. It works well enough. I also liked the setting quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
Where the bottom floors of these buildings were underground. That was very cool.
A lot of the set pieces were really cool. I mean, from the start with the gas station where, I guess that was Dr. Hill, right, as a clerk, cashier, to the house they're in most of the time, to the other places they travel to. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wonder if him being the clerk there is an ode to House of a Thousand Corpses, because a similar thing happens with Captain Spaulding. I'm not sure if that's a trope. I also kind of like how quickly we get into the premise of the movie, because, yeah, we could have probably spent 10 minutes handing us Clover's issues and problems, you know, on a silver platter, and we're going to represent it through series of traumatic nights.
Yes, but that made the movie feel so much longer for me, as in I was terrified longer the faster we jumped into it.
No, absolutely. It really wastes no time, and I don't know how, but it really kind of masterfully paces itself out in that way, because we do get snippets of her dealing with this loss of a sister and her mom. Maybe inspired by Midsummer, too, in that way.
I mentioned the body horror, and it really was awesome to see the explosions I got scared by the first explosion, but I mean, I'm telling you, I was already on edge, so I'm not surprised I was scared by just anything crazy that happened here. But I love the scene where Megan's belly was starting to explode and it just looked all emaciated and it was nasty. But I liked how that kept coming back too, that if you drink this water from this place, you explode, and that ended up helping them in the long run. That's how she got Dr. Hill. And the body transformations were gnarly too. They didn't play around with their slow transformations from the beginning to the end, like their veins really popping out or their bruises becoming more prominent. I mean, the detail here was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the kills were very cool. My favorite kill-oriented thing was when they were watching clips of things they'd recently experienced from other nights, was they saw that mask down the hallway and they were like, is that a person? And then it gets a little closer and it's like this big black stringy monster thing. I think I thought to myself, man, I wish this film was found footage. It'd been kind of cool. But
oh man, I would be more terrified.
But I will also say we should probably listen to Abe and people like Abe a little bit more. I think he was my favorite. He kind of reminded me of Jenna Ortega's character from Death of a Unicorn, where he's not exactly likable, but he's kind of right. And also it's kind of fun that no one really died.
Yes, I was very pleasantly happy with that outcome.
I guess they had died enough before, so a nice subverting of expectation is that none of them die, I guess, except Dr. Hill, but...
Yeah, I really thought Megan was going to be the goner. Or Abe. My money was on those two.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for going to see this movie with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
It's a horror movie and a video game movie, so I'm going with 10.
Well, it says here that it's about 15 million.
Oh,
so
okay.
Very much right in the pocket of every other horror movie, right?
Yes.
And of course, it's just come out, so it's hard to say what the box office is going to be, but it's probably going to do just fine with a $15 million budget. If whatever random Blumhouse movie can make money, this should be an easy slam dunk.
Wow.
And over on Letterboxd with 30,000 people, they weighed in at a 2.8.
Yeah, I'm definitely not too far from that. I might give it a 3. I was originally thinking 3.5 because, man, have I never felt this scared. But it was just a fun watch. And honestly, the jump scares made my stomach hurt. My body was not happy being so tense the entire time. Although that's kind of like a guilty pleasure thing. I liked a lot of elements of this movie, but there wasn't much else past that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page. I like a lot about it. It's not an excellent movie by any stretch, but there's a lot of fun to have here. There's a lot of fun ideas, a lot of fun visuals, performances or whatever, but some of the writing, the humor, it pays off. The best place to see it's probably at the theater. But yeah, so it's probably a solid 2 in my book. But yeah, man, thank you again, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmsteins, another abridged episode. Remember, we post normal episodes every Wednesday and Friday on patreon.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/filmsteins. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmsteins, signing off.